Okay. Hello. Welcome to episode 3 of a series we're doing on supernatural life, which is life in and being led by the Spirit of God, who is supernatural. And as long as you're in the flow of the Spirit of God, you too are living a supernatural life. So the first episode, we got into some pretty deep stuff. Second episode, I just gave some testimonies on different times in my life where God had spoken to me directly and given me specific instructions and stuff, and was just talking about how the foundation and beginning of living a life that's going to be full of supernatural manifestations is to be in communication with God, because He's the one doing it all. So you got to be talking to and hearing from God in order to know what He's doing and participate in that. So on this third episode, we've been talking about doing an episode, a testimony of our relationship for a while. So I figured that this would be a good time to do this one, because I want to do one on not just hearing God, but obeying what He tells you, believing what He tells you, and doing what He tells you, which sometimes is hard. Sometimes you're hearing stuff from God, but you're scared to do what He tells you to do, or you don't necessarily believe it's from God, and so sometimes we don't really follow through with things that He's trying to get us to do. So probably in my life, this was the biggest, scariest time that I heard something from God, and also the most, obviously, big blessing in my life for believing and listening to Him and obeying what He was telling me to do. So I'm going to share this testimony, and it's two different perspectives, because takes two to make this story. So I'll let Kayla tell parts of her story, how it was going on. But if you watched part 2, and I gave the testimony about the University of Florida professors, I'll just give a quick highlight of that one. But I would suggest going back and watching the first 2 parts of the series, because they're pretty good. But I was saying how about 2 years ago, I had a time in my life where a lot of miraculous stuff was happening, and I was walking in the street, and God gave me a message about getting a hold of professors from the University of Florida, and that if we got a hold of these professors from the University of Florida, a big door was going to open, and something big was going to come out of that, dealing with horticulture and gardening and stuff. And within 3 hours, and I believed it and professed it in the middle of the street. And within 3 hours, I got news that these guys, the head of the entire Department of Horticulture at University of Florida, and his professors were going to be coming through and visiting me. And within a couple of days they was in my house hanging out with me, and we became friends. So once they left, I was pretty shook for a whole week. I was not really doing a whole lot of talking, because I was just still sinking in the fact that God told me something so specific, told me that this is going to happen. You're going to connect with these people from this university, and if you do that, then something's going to come out of it. And I believed it and professed it and proclaimed that to people, that God was telling me that. Within a couple hours, I got direct confirmation that these people that I had no connection to or didn't know nothing about were going to be coming to my little town in Honduras. And 3 days later, there they were, hanging out with me, encouraging me, and telling me that they're going to get behind me. And this was the #1 horticulture program in the whole United States of America. And I believed what God was telling me, even though there was no reason for me to think that. And there they was, manifested within a couple of days. So I was sinking in all this. I'm like, holy cow. If it's really possible for God to talk to me like this, and to speak to me that clearly in these kind of messages, then that is what I want in my life. More than anything else, that's what I'm after right now. I need to hear from God like that, and that's what I want. I want to have a relationship with God like that. So whatever you got to do, whatever you got to tell me, whatever you got to show me to change in my life, if I got anything in between me and you in my life, anything at all, show me so I can change or get rid of things in my life or whatever, and clear that line of communication, because that's what I want in my life. I want to be able to hear from God and Him tell me what to do. So I was spending a good several days meditating on that and saying that to God. Now, me and Kayla had been friends already for about 2.5 years, I think. A little over 2.5 years. And yeah, since Christmas 2009. And one time when I first met her, she was 17. And I was like, pretty good looking girl. And one time I scolded her because she didn't do her chores. She didn't feed the dog or something. And she got, what? You want me to tell the story or not? And she was like,
okay.
I'm just telling the story. And she got very upset and all that. And I was like, no. I could never deal with that. So from that day forward, really, there was nothing other than I'm on the missionary side. She was living in the girls' home, so it was just like she was one of the girls. And we were good friends. She was the only one who spoke English over there, so every week I would go over there and we would talk because we spoke English. And long time passed. We were just good friends because I seen her every week when I would go visit the kids and stuff. She would be over there. Now, leading up to this time, in the same time period where this thing with the professors went on, there was another girl here. I'm just going to tell the story for what it is. There was another girl here named Kayla on a mission trip with Kevin, Kathy's son Kevin. And Kevin stole her diary and was like, hey, bro. Anyway, marriage was on this girl's mind. And I knew that, and I was thinking, And okay, for me personally, I had a lot of issues, a lot of things built up to where I did not, a relationship was the last thing on my mind. I already made up my mind. I don't need anybody else. I just need God. If I'm just with you, God, I'm just going to work for you for the rest of my life. And I'm fine and happy with that. I'm just going to keep trying to change the world. I don't need nobody. And there was a whole bunch of different reasons.
I started into his mind.
And on my awakening, a lot of different things. Well, I didn't trust people. But then on top of that, it was like I had already awakened to the fact that I didn't care anymore about physical stuff. I gave away all my belongings. I'm like, well, where am I going to find a girl who don't care about physical, who don't want stuff, care about buying stuff all the time, physical stuff. And then I was doing the missionary thing. I'm just like sleeping on an air mattress and not having nothing and being happy with that and just helping other people. I'm like, where am I going to find a person who would understand this? They have to understand this kind of life and all that. So I had a whole long list of things I kept saying, if it was ever going to be, then it would have to be this, this, and this, God. Basically trying to make a list that would be impossible to find so that I don't have to worry about finding it, and then I wouldn't have to take a chance of getting my heart broke. And so this girl, in the same week, this girl says to me, we're sitting there on the porch, hanging out one day, and she's like, how old are you? Say, I'm 30. And you never been married? No. What's wrong with you? Why? I was like, I don't know. I just haven't met the right one. I don't know. And the same week, I'm back here in Sambo, and the other girl, Kayla, goes, I'm sitting out there on my porch. I'm like, dang, man, I got so much to do. I need somebody to help. I need somebody to help me with this and this and this. I got too much to do. She's like, sounds like you need a wife. And I was like, It was the first time I thought about that in a couple of years, and I was like, that's interesting, but not you. But I was thinking, wow, maybe I do need a wife. Now, that next week, all this stuff happens with the professors and blows my whole mind open to a new realm of possibility and potential with God, of what's possible with God, of literally hearing God speak to you audibly, even in new levels. And I was like, wow, man. So I'm sitting there like meditating, asking God, show me what I need to change in my life in order to like walk in this new kind of communication. And it says, your love life. You tell everybody, you preach faith all the time, that anything's possible. That if you can believe in anything, God can do anything, that nothing is impossible with Christ. But with your love life, you have zero faith in me. You don't believe in me at all. You got all these excuses, all these things, all these reasons why you can't have what you would need for a partner in your life. So that, and you don't believe that I would give you the desire of your heart, that if you really, even if it's some list that seems totally long and impossible, that you can have that. And I was like, dang, I can't say nothing about that. He sure is right about that. And he just kept hitting me with this whole thing that you don't have faith in me. You don't believe in me. And I was like, wow, that hurts. But I don't want that to be true about me, that I don't have faith in my God. Now, the week prior to that, the people who run the orphanage where she was living at and working at, it was the first time in years, the first time since I've been living in Honduras that they ever came and visited my house, and it was because they gave me a ride home or something. So I was like, hey, let me show you my apartment real quick and some of the places we were at. Kayla had given me a picture, a pretty good sized picture, like somebody had printed a bunch of pictures for her. And she's like, hey, you want a picture of me? I'm like, yeah, all right. And I had a big painting in my room where I had a bunch of little pictures of the kids all hanging, and then boom, a big one of her. So they came into my apartment, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, is this weird? Is this weird that I have a picture of one of their kids, one of their girls in my house? Because obviously I'm there every week with all the kids and with their girls and stuff. And I was feeling all weird and guilty about it, like, are they going to think this is weird? So as soon as they left, I'm like, oh man, I took the picture down and I must have stuck it, hid it away. So now I'm sitting out on my porch and I'm talking to God, and He's telling me all this stuff. That you don't have faith in me, this and that. I'm like, dang, you're right. I believe that. So I open up my Bible, boom. Right where I open up my Bible is a picture of Kayla, a big picture of Kayla. And right there, I'm looking at the picture, and he says, everything that you ever said that you need, and everything that you need in a wife, and everything that you ever said that you wanted is in her. And if you believe me, she's already your wife. And I was like, what? I'm like, oh my God, am I going crazy? And I think I was sitting out there with one of my best friends, Wayne. And I was like, I don't even think I told him at first. And I was sitting there like meditating on that. And I'm like, this is the craziest thing, because I have no feelings for her like that. Like, we was just good friends. And that was another thing I always said, if I was ever going to find somebody that I could be in a relationship with and get married to, obviously she would have to be my best friend first, because that's what your husband and wife got to be, best friends. So I'll know, because it'll be somebody I'm best friends with. And so I'm like thinking all these things. I'm like, dang. And then I remember her asking me the week before, how come you never got married and all this? And I'm like, oh my God, this is too much for me to deal with right now. Because this all just came out of nowhere.
Well, that actually came out of nowhere when I told you that. I was like, I was just wondering. It was like, he's 30-something, so who...
She's like, what's wrong with this guy?
So who actually the person is waiting for? What's wrong?
So...
It was weird.
Yeah, and so I was sitting there meditating, praying for a couple of days after this, because I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Am I going crazy? Because I need to know for sure this is from God and not just coming from myself, because if I even bring this up or say anything at all, this could all go wrong. This could ruin my relationship with these missionaries. This could ruin my relationship with the girls. This could go really bad. This could go really bad. This can, like, everything can backfire on me if I'm not getting this right, if I'm not hearing from God on this. So I spent a couple of days, like, just thinking about it and praying about it. Then I started telling my friend Wayne, I'm like, bro, it's going to sound crazy, but I knew it wasn't going to sound too crazy to him, because he was the one with me when the other message came through. And I started prophesying about these professors, about the professors coming down. It was just me and him in the street, and I started telling him, God's telling me this right now, bro. I don't know why. God's telling me this before we get a hold of this university, all this can happen. And he was with me as all this stuff started unfolding. So I knew it was going to kind of sound crazy, but at the same time, it couldn't sound too crazy, because we was just on the end of all this other stuff unfolding. And I was like, bro, I don't know how to explain this to you, but now I feel like God is telling me about this girl over there at the orphanage. Said I'm going to marry her. And I don't know, man. Just pray for me, please, because I don't want to be missing out on this one. I don't want to be getting this wrong or something. And then I spent a couple of days praying about it, and then I called my pastor, asked him to pray for me, called Mark, called my dad, and had them all praying for me. And just, I know they was probably all like, what? Then I was like, well, shoot, man. If this is real. Okay, so I spent a couple days meditating, praying on that. Then after about 3 or 4 days, I said, you know what? I believe you, God. I'm gonna invest my faith that this is you speaking to me, and I'm gonna believe you. As crazy as this is, I'm gonna believe you. And if you tell me that this girl is already my wife, right now she's already my wife, then I gotta start acting like she's already my wife now. And I got some things I gotta change in my mind and my thinking and my habits. I got some change and I gotta change now, because obviously can't just wait till then. And then I started going around trying to put myself in thinking differently in different situations, like I have a wife. And then I was laying down in bed one night, laying there, and just imagining Kayla in bed with me and thinking, wow, I have a wife. And imagine her laying there in bed with me, thinking, this isn't wild. I already have a wife, and I believe it. And I'm seeing in the spirit things that are not as though they already are. So then I'm like, all right, well, if I believe I have a wife, I guess I better go visit this girl and check this out and make sure that I'm not just imagining all this. And that was scary, real scary, because then the devil wants to start making you doubt. Anytime God's going to tell you something, the enemy is going to come and try and put doubt in your mind about it. And fear. So I went out there to visit them, like I always did. And I'm like, let me see if anything feels different about this. Now, me and her have different remembrance on this, because I remember her doing homework at the table and telling me, hey, can you come over here and help me with this? And so I sat down at the table looking at it, and I'm looking at it. I remember her coming, like, hovering over me, like leaning over me. I was like, feeling different. She tells a different version of that. But I remember sitting there, like, looking at her homework, her coming, like, hovering over my head, and I'm like, maybe I was nervous or what.
Well, it was weird. He was like checking my books and stuff. I'm like,
you asked me to come look at and help you with your homework.
Yes, I needed. You were good at math. I wasn't good at math, so I was like.
So that night, I'm sleeping. I went to sleep in this apartment, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I'm like, oh my God. I gotta write all this stuff out. I gotta get this all out and write it out or something. I was too scared to approach her and just say all this, because I'm thinking, man, if all this crap backfires, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be bad. Not only is it gonna be my end over here visiting this ministry, but this is gonna go out. The word is gonna go out. Dan is a weirdo or something. So I remember like writing this whole letter to her, like, look, I don't want to scare you. I'm not saying like let's get married right now or anything. I'm just saying, remember the conversation we had and talking about the professors, how all this stuff God was doing and all this stuff. And if there was anybody that I would marry or consider marrying, the only one I could think of is you. And then I remember I put a couple bucks in the letter. I was like, hey, if you want to call me, it would be nice if you want to call me like throughout the week. Be nice to hear from you, this and that. And I made up this whole letter, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta give it this. All right, it's time to leave the next day. I'm like freaking out. My heart is going. I'm like, no, man, no. You can't give her this letter. No way, you can't give her this letter. You gotta get out of here, bro. Just leave, bro, because this is gonna go bad.
And it was so weird. The last day, before you gave me a letter, he was like, adios, Kayla. It's like, bye, Kayla. And like, he normally doesn't say goodbye like that. He was like, what's up with this guy?
She said I normally give her a hug goodbye and stuff, and I was acting weird, like, okay, see you later. I got like a quarter way down the street, and I got real convicted, and I was like, either you believe this is God or you don't. You got to make your decision right now. If it's not God, if you don't want to believe it's God, then just forget this whole thing right now and walk away and just let it go. If you think it's God, then you got to believe it's God, and you better turn your butt around and go back and give her the letter. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yes, I believe that this is you, God. And I turned around and I went to the gate. I remember calling her over and be like, hey, come here for a second. I was like, if I give you this, can you keep it to yourself? You know, yeah, I can give it to myself. Boom, gave her the letter, and I left. And then I was like, I wasn't nervous no more. I was like, well, whatever happens, happens now. I'm leaving it in your hands, God. I'm leaving. The whole week is going by, no calls. I'm not getting no calls. She's not calling. I'm like, oh man, what's going on? But I don't care, God. I believe she's already my wife, and can't nobody tell me nothing different. She's already my wife, but even she don't even know it yet. She's my wife. And from that day, I just kept on living like that and thinking like, I already got a wife. And then I go back out to visit the next week, and I didn't leave her my phone number in the letter, so she couldn't call me. And then that week was so weird. That week was even weirder. Sitting there, we just sat at this picnic table, like staring at each other, because I didn't even know how she was thinking at all. I hadn't even heard from her at all from the time I left. And then it was like we just sitting there quiet in each other's presence a lot. And then I'm asking her like, well, what are you thinking? And then she started telling me that she had been praying for that for a long time. So I let you can share your part, because you was already there living for a long time.
Yeah, mostly praying for a good guy for my daughter, and just believe that I was gonna get married in this white dress, and you know, it was one of my dreams that I had also too. And just I also had a goal that I wanted in life, you know. But at the same time, I was praying for a nice husband and a good husband to come into my life. And it was like if he just answered my prayer when that happened, I wasn't so surprised when he said it, because I knew totally from my faith that I have inside me that I knew that was going to happen somehow in his time, because I was just waiting. The exact time. That's what I
So it's really weird when you start a relationship off knowing that you're going to get married before anything else, before you ever go on a date or anything. Because that was the topic of conversation before we even, that's what it sprang out of. So it was really weird sitting there and talking from that point, because then it was like, okay, we talk about marriage before we start talking about dating. Then we start dating. And then when I started telling a couple of people that, everybody thinking that we're crazy. How much opposition we have from people.
All negative.
Oh, negative. That God, man, we had to rely on God for a lot to get us through all this. From the get-go, people against us and not wanting it together. I mean, every possible thing you could think of bringing against us, stuff behind the scenes, just trying to plant negativity and seeds and reasons. And
I think it's not only, well, it's kind of weird in our relationship, but it's mostly in every married couple. The enemy just wants people to be separated and don't be married. It's easy for a person to get married, like just without anything, without God, sights or anything. It's very easy. A lot of people have been married without getting.
They say 55% divorce rate inside the church, 50% outside. So that lets you know how easily people give up on marriage. And once, I mean, our marriage was not just based on like, oh, because we dated and we was never. It was, for me, it was from God. Even at different points, it was not easy. Especially we could only see each other once a week, a day here or a day there. We couldn't really date. We always had tons of people around us. It was hard to have privacy.
I wasn't really comfortable either, because then I was like thinking because then I had to reach like early to my place, to my home, and like scheduling my time, and like it wasn't really comfortable coming out.
It was hard, and there was definitely many different parts.
It was crazy.
Along that journey, being engaged, where my flesh wanted to give up. I'm like, no, I can't. This is not going to work out. There's no way. But I couldn't ever give that up, because in my heart I believed that it was God that told me all that and set that up. So if I was to give up on that, I'm giving up on God. It's not just giving up on my own desires or my own idea or plan. God told me these things, and God told me that's your wife. and God doesn't
That's
not
why.
approve of divorce, no matter what people tell you, no matter what excuses and reasoning and all that you want to make up. God ain't for divorce. So if he was already telling me she's your wife, and she wasn't my, and it's another thing. People, once you're sleeping with somebody, that's your wife. We wasn't even sleeping together. We didn't even. That's another thing. We did not sleep together all the way till we got married, which that's a big testimony in itself. That's not easy. And so we was together for probably like a year and 8 months or something before we got married. Never slept together. We had people accusing us of sleeping together, even people within the ministry, people that were real close to us. All these things for no reason. They have no reason, and for what purpose and all that, I have no idea. People are so funny, but we didn't. And so to have that, even that would, if like when it gets really hard and it comes to decisions in the road, like, man, my flesh is thinking this is not just going to work out. You can go. You haven't even slept together, so you're not even legally married. You're not even really married. You're not walking out in a marriage. But at the same time, God already told me that's your wife.
It was
if
so
you believe
hard.
That's your wife.
It was so hard to continue dating each other and stuff like that, because it was like there was no positivity. It was like everything was
nobody
just
encouraging around
negative.
us. We had a lot of encouraging people from my side, but they was not around here. They was in the States. Some here in Sambo,
but besides that, it was like all negative stuff. And like if you like rely on all negative things, sometimes I just wanted to give up and just let it, because you just get tired of it.
The people around you, that's why you gotta rely on God
and then
seek
it's like,
God out.
It wasn't easy for me. This test wasn't easy for me. It was like a test that you were taking. Either you pass the grade or you fail it. It was like very crazy. But then I started to pray and started to control my emotions and thoughts and feelings, because I knew what was said and done wasn't right. What they're saying, it wasn't real. It wasn't even real. And if I know deep down inside of me that it wasn't true, then I don't have to even worry about it, because nothing that they were saying or taught or feeling was true, the story. So I was like, well,
we had to just rely on each other and on God. And when you do that,
back and forth to the States, and like that, we just
I was gone a lot for months at a time. Yeah,
we just totally knew each other good enough that we trust each other, and that he knows that I will be down here and I will not be doing anything ungodly, and I knew that he wouldn't be doing anything ungodly either. So we I don't know, but we totally knew each other. And
it was crazy because she never even had a computer, so she never had access to Facebook or anything, so she didn't even see or know about, other than what I would tell her, but she didn't see any of the stuff that I was doing ministry-wise, going to the States, even ministering to people online. But it was, at the same time, it was almost like I was liking that and protecting that, because I had one person or one relationship that wasn't about that whole thing, all that stuff. It was just right here. Whatever's between us is our relationship, where everybody else was, about what I'm doing on Facebook and Honduras and all that stuff. But not only hearing from God, but trusting that what you're hearing is from God, discerning when what you're hearing is from God, and hanging on to what He's telling you against all other stuff, regardless of every other condition in the world around you, in the physical, coming from people, coming from your circumstances, coming from all of that. Just like Abraham, like God told him, I'm going to give you a son, and he was 90 years old, and his wife was barren, and there's no possible way, but he knew God was telling him this, so he already knew, I have a son. It doesn't matter how long it's going to take, how it comes, I have a son. That's how it was for me. I have a wife.
It's just like when you hear from God and you listen, and it's like a commandment that you do, because it's like part of your life, because God likes to tell you to do something, you better do what God told you to do, no matter what comes your way.
So usually the biggest blessings, like my boy Shane always says, before every bless is a test. Usually the biggest blessings, you have to prove yourself through your faith, like that you believe in what God is telling you is going to cost you something, or it's going to be a trial or a struggle to get through something in order to get to that thing. It's a refining process. But I know that we both grew a lot through that whole process, individually and with each other. and God works all things together for those who love and seek after Him. Now we got an awesome marriage. I'm blessed with my best friend, and it's still not easy because we went from. It's still not easy because we went from living 2 hours apart and seeing each other 1 day a week to living together 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But you learn a lot. You learn a lot about yourself. You refine yourself through it. And now together we're able to do a lot more and be a minister and witness to a lot more people and invite people into our house, go out to other people's houses, and to just try and be a light. And I already knew, like, when she was moving over here, that the biggest thing that we're going to be able to do is to just be a married couple founded in Christ in a place where married couples as it is almost non-existent. And if you do find the one, to have a godly Christ proclaiming couple is very, very, very rare. So to just be that and to work on being that, and that's why it's, even as a struggle, even if we're arguing this and that, like, even that's convicting in itself, because I don't want to ruin our witness. I don't want to ruin our testimony to other people, and to make it to where you're talking about God, and you're trying to bring them the gospel, and then you're giving a bad witness or bad testimony to it. I don't want to be a hypocrite like that. So it's a refining process, because we still got flesh, but through Christ, all things are possible. All you got to do is spend time praying together, meditating together, talking, having communication about stuff. And so just encouragement that the last one we was talking about testimonies about hearing from God, but the harder thing to do is obeying what He tells you, even when what He tells you seems crazy and nobody else understands it, nobody else believes it coming from God, nobody else sees it how you see it. Stand firm on that.
They don't believe in God, because God does crazy things.
And the more times He does crazy things and you believe Him and stick with it and it happens, you care less and less and less and less and less about what the world says, less and less and less about what other people believe, their little weak faith, and you just keep wanting to hear Him more and more and more.
And like, God is our only best friend in the whole wide world, which is like, whatever He's always there. He's never gonna fail you. He's never gonna abandon you. If you feel abandoned or you feel alone, God is your only friend out of all. Doesn't matter.
He's never gonna steer you wrong, ever.
He's the person that you need to rely on. God.
The only thing you need to do is make sure that you're discerning what you're hearing is coming from God. If you can discern for certain that what's coming is coming from God, even if it's crazy, like He told one prophet to marry a prostitute, she kept leaving him and going out and hooking and cheating with other people. He kept telling him, go find her and take her back, over and over and over. Another prophet, he had walking naked for a couple years. Didn't understand it, but it was for a purpose, and God was telling him to do it. So he believed it and did it, and it all served a purpose. If you know for certain what's coming from God, He's never going to steer you wrong. Something's going to come out of it for your benefit. And
just like when I said about having, like, when we talk about telling God what we want and like the desires of our heart, God always gives us. And like when we wait patiently, and the song that I always would sing was like esperaré en ti, like pacientemente.
In English, please. Wait on You.
Yes, but it's not. So wait on You patiently. That's the song. Like, just wait. And like, I've been waiting for a lot of things. He knows all the desire of my heart, and little by little they're going to be fulfilled, because I trust in Him, and I know that He's going to fulfill each and every one of them. But right now I know that my dad is in Belize, but I know deep down inside that God has control over his life, and that He's going to take good care of my dad. And I know that deep down inside of my heart and I believe that I will see my dad face to face once again and be able to talk to him about Christ, because he doesn't really believe, like it's like very sad for me that have like Maria, the most of my family, they don't really believe in God. And like my grandfather, he died without Christ. Each time a person comes to him and talk about God to him, he will just bust out and laugh. And that's what his son sees. So what you reap is what you sow. Is like, normally time people look up to people. Like if I had like a sister that is bigger than me, and she do good things, and she does this, she does that, no matter if she does good thing or bad thing, you look up to that person and you just see, wow, I want to be like her, or wow, I want to be like him, no matter what, because it's your big brother, and what the oldest do is what the youngest do. So it's like an example. We are like an example to people to see through one another, and just, so that's what he sees from my grandfather. Now he just laughs when everybody tells him about God too. It's like, and then the other one in the States, she does the same thing, just laugh. And it's not really funny because they totally is lost if they don't repent before the time comes. And it's something very serious, because you know where you're going to. So that's one of the prayers that I'm doing, and I know deep down inside of me, I don't know when he's gonna do it, because it's not me. I'm just relying on him to do it. I know that I'll be able to go and see my dad, but I just don't know when, because God is gonna provide anything that I need so that I can see my dad. And I know that I'm going to be able to see him. And I know that my dad is still young, and I know that my dad is young, because when I was small, my dad was young when he had me. So I know that my dad is young.
That's the difference between the way of a natural man and a supernatural one. A natural man, the only way that they can change a situation is trying to figure out how they personally can manipulate or do something to bring about a change in the situation. We know that there's nothing that we can do and nothing that we have to do except for bring prayer before God. Bring it to him, and that's what's supernatural about it. He has the ability to move in people. He has the ability to melt hearts. He has the ability to do all kinds of things and pull strings and bring all things about.
The way how God has answering my prayers day by day, that just built up my faith every time. When I've been through situation that I think to myself that I cannot come out through, I just pray and just buckle my knees and just start to pray, and that prayer reaches to him, and he hears it, and he knows what is happening. But all he wants you to know that you're relying on him, everything on him. It's not just saying, yeah, I rely on God. But if you are fighting the situation and you know that you can't fix it, let God fix it, because he's the perfect one. He's not going to fail you. Definitely not. He's going to fulfill every little thing that you've been waiting for. Like, for example, when I was in Belize, I had a bad situation. I was living with my stepdad, my mom, and we were in school, and my stepdad keep treating bad my mom, and like physically hitting her in front of us. And I was like, in my mind, I was only like 8 something, but when I was 12, I was like, I'm getting out of here, because I don't want it. I'm taking my mom, I'm taking my sister, because I don't want this kind of life. Obviously, nobody wants that kind of life. Nobody wants to be treated like that. So I knew God inside of me already. I've been going to church. My mom was trying to live the right way. We trying to live the right way that we're supposed to be living. And all of a sudden, he comes out with this idea that he wants to go and see his family. And in Belize, he was doing this drug addiction. And when he started doing that, he just started to sell every little thing that was in his sight or mind that he needed this drug so bad. And when he doesn't get what he wants, he hits my mom. And she just stay there and just don't do nothing. And it's like, it just drives me crazy. And right in front of us. And when we go to school, it's like if we're some kind of captive people, because we go to school and come back. He checks the hour that we go, he checks the hour that we come back. And it's like very crazy. That's like having somebody in jail or something. So we're going to school and all these stuff, but he never once bought us anything for our education. We had like our family from England, from the States that provide for him. My mom wasn't available to work because he didn't let my mom work. He wanted himself to work. It was just like being, they call it nombre egoísta. It's like being just thinking about themselves and don't think about selfish. He was a selfish man. And I'm so glad that I have Christ inside of me, because I don't know where I was going to be, what I will be doing, what I was thinking, because to be able to forgive the person and just leave it into God's hands, it's not easy, especially for a flesh person. And that's definitely not me. That's from God. That's why I just let go everything that what he did. And like every time we just go in and out the house, and he would do the same thing every day. It was just like a day of sadness every day. The same thing over and over and over, fighting this and that in front of us, and totally manipulating her. Like she can't do nothing. It was like sad. And he went to church, been baptized like 4 times, and for nothing, because he never did change. And these bad friends that he used to hang out with, and I mean, it's totally not good. And he knows deep down in his heart what he is doing is bad. So he has a lot to be waiting for when God comes. But that's when we got here to Honduras, and I didn't speak English. My sister didn't speak English. My mom Spanish. And we actually didn't know anything. He knew his Spanish and Garifuna, like 2 languages that they speak down here. And we went to tell him, and he started to abusing us and treating us bad, and we didn't have anywhere to escape or anything. So what I did was pray every day, and he was continue hitting us, abusing us, and my sister and me, and it was like, oh my goodness, my mom didn't do nothing about it. It was like, you just wanna hang yourself or I don't know what, but I didn't turn crazy or anything. I just prayed and asked God to take me out of this situation.
About the one night that you was thinking about.
And I was like, man, I'm tired of this. And like one night I was like, I'm gonna put this knife in my pillow and I'm just gonna kill this guy because I'm just tired of him. And like a voice come to me and say, don't do it because vengeance is from God. So when I heard that, I totally stopped and I put the knife where it belongs back, and I just left it. And then I just continued praying and praying. It was a struggle. My sister got pregnant in the house. She had her baby, and this guy went to put his last name on in front of my mom and was like, he was like denying that he didn't do anything to my sister and me, and he told his mom that we had like we had because of the boyfriends that we had on the road, and like we didn't even do nothing like that on the road or anything, and they were like telling him the truth and he didn't like it, so he almost hit his other sister, and they were like fighting, arguing back, and so we just started to pray, and all of a sudden, a couple of days afterwards, all of a sudden my mom, she has this problem with epilepsy, and she just falls on the floor and just tremble, and her eyes go back rolling and stuff, and that's, she can't stand too much pressure or getting worried because she can get sick and die. And then police came over and infra came over, and this guy, my stepfather, is sitting in this chair. I thought that he was gonna do something, but he didn't do nothing. He just sit there in the chair, not moving, not at all. And these people come in the house and search in the house, and they're like saying, "This is not the way these children supposed to be, and we're gonna take them away from you." So the infant took us in, and that's how I got ended up into an orphanage here in Tacoma. And that's when infants separate me and my sister. And in that time, I didn't know how to speak Spanish, neither her. So she went that direction and I went the other direction. And my mom went another direction. So it's like we don't even know where. They don't even know where I am.
Any of her family is right now.
Any of my family is like totally gone. But I know that the only person that I can rely on is God, and I know that He's gonna bring back my family back again. That's when the enemy takes your family away. They just take it because when that starts to come in, that's why most of the time a Christian person can't be with a worldly person. That's why, because they don't think the same way, they don't act the same way, and you're unequally yoked, and they can't stay together because they can't stand each other. It's the spirit. The spirit doesn't. It's like water and oil, or salt and sugar. Doesn't taste the same. So that's why. And it was just like a wreck. And in that time I was like praying, and all the time praying and just hoping that God would take me on one day out of that place, and He really did. And I didn't do anything to my stepdad, and all I know that wherever he is, he has that guilt, and I know that I don't have to do nothing towards him because I know the vengeance of the Lord is upon him. That's the time when he's gonna suffer his consequences. And
right, He works all things out together for the good, because it made your relationship with God all the more stronger to have to rely on Him and depend on Him to get you through all that stuff.
And then I asked it, and like until now, living with my mother, Solidaria, it was like crazy because I couldn't even speak Spanish. She can't speak English, so it was like she was like telling me things in Spanish, and I would just nod my head, and it was just awful because you don't know how to speak the language. It's like I feel like a person that couldn't even speak, or a sick person or something like that. But I just kept praying, and I'm like, first of all, the first year she told me, you can't go to school, and that was one of the desire of my heart. That's what I would like to do, go to school and, you know, be whatever I want to be. And just, that's why I have a song that I always sing, I can be anything that I want to be. So, and so I always sing that song. The key, God is like, if you just say this, He just give it to you. It's like just crazy. And like everything that I desire.
Whatsoever man thinks in his heart, so shall he be.
And like I'm in this house and she's like, you can't go to school. And all of a sudden I got pregnant. After 3 days, I knew that I was pregnant when I was in
You
the
didn't
house.
get pregnant. You realized you were
pregnant after 3 months. In la casa de mi madre solidaria. In the house of my madre solidaria. Mom. So, that's when Kaylita was born. So then, she, for a month, I didn't speak Spanish for a month. I started to speak Spanish in a month, which was kind of crazy and amazing. I was praying to God and all.
tongues.
And like, not perfectly, but I can defend myself. Like, I know the basics. I know the basics a lot. And when my Madre Solidaria, they told me that some people were gonna take me away from her and take me to Toccoa. And I was like, she didn't tell me anything until the time that I was about to leave. And I'm like, what's this? And like, every kid that she had, they were taken away little by little. Oh, wait, and that wasn't the part when I had Kaylita. Okay. And I went to the hospital and all that stuff that a person's supposed to take on a birth on the baby and for the baby. And when I found out that I was 3 months pregnant, I was like all depressed.
How old were you?
15, 14. I was all depressed. I was like, what they're gonna think about me. While they were gonna talk about me, I can't go to school, I can't do this, I can't do the other. And then, like, okay, well, there's nothing I can do now. I'm pregnant, so might as well just pray to God and ask God to control my mind, thoughts, and feelings, and start to move on. And I started to pray for another thing, like asking God that I want to study and that I want to go to be able to go to school and to be able to be a teacher. That's the time when I want to be a teacher. So, and I was praying for those things. I keep like personal prayers to myself. And I went to had Kaylita in the hospital. And when I went to the hospital, I had her normal, everything was okay. Just me, I went straight into coma. Almost dead. Almost died. And while I was in coma, I was in this bed. And I was like laying down, but I found out this after 3 days, 4 days, I found it out. And I didn't get to see Kaylita for the week. And while I was in coma, I couldn't feel, when you're in coma, you don't feel nothing, you don't hear nothing, you don't know anything, you're just completely out. So, I was laying down, and all of a sudden I see myself walking, and there was like 2 roads. There was like a wide road, and there was like a narrow road, like a crooked road. And I had this white dress on, and I had nothing on my feet, I guess. I don't see my feet, but I had this white dress on. I was walking on this crooked road, but I didn't even know where I was going. But I kept saying to myself, Lord, please don't take me. Please don't take me. I'm not ready to go right now. I'm not ready to go. Please take me. Please don't take me. Please don't take me. And all of a sudden, when I said that more than 3 times, I saw this big hand coming towards me and pushing me back. That's when I had, what the doctor said, that in 4 days, if I didn't wake up, that she was just going to bury me because I dead. So when he put his hand and just throw me back, spiritually just throw me back, I started to breathe life bread and life, they call it, back. And then the person that was beside me in the hospital kept saying, enfermera, enfermera, la muchacha se despertó. Like calling the nurses and all that stuff so that they can come and see me. And I just, when I woke up, all I wanted to do was go to the bathroom. I was hungry. And like when you just get up, in this Bible, there's a verse where they say, give the child something to eat. When this child was like, remember, like, I don't remember which part of the Bible. There's a story that this little girl, his dad thought that she was like dead.
Jesus said she's not dead, she's just sleeping.
Jesus said she's not dead, she's just sleeping. And Jesus came over and just woke her up, and she get back up, and they say bring food for her because she's hungry and she needs to eat. So what I wanted to do was just get out of the bed and go. And I was like looking at myself, no clothes on, just this one little robe with the tie in the neck, and my hair was like this, all crazy. And I just want to walk off of the bed. I was moving, and this enfermera come towards me and she say, you can't move right now, you need to lay down, you need to relax. You want to be one more week in the hospital? You better lay down and relax. I'm like, no, okay. And they're like, I need to go to the bathroom, I need to go to the bathroom. Like, the excuse because I just want to get out of the bed and just go because I can't stand it. And like, she didn't want to let me. So it was like, oh man. And I had to lay down back, and she was like, don't worry, you have the stuff so you can pee in. Well, then afterwards my mom and daddy went to pick me up. We went to take Carlita home and all that stuff. It was okay, and then we went to write her name. And so daddy went to put her name on it and register and all that stuff. And then a couple months ago after that, my mother Solidaria said that some people were going to come over and pick me up. That's when I met Mom Penny and Papa Bear in this the Infa de Tela. And I didn't really know them too good. I was like sitting there and just waiting for who was going to pick me up because my mom didn't tell me who was going to pick me up. And I was like sitting in the office and I was like talking to them in English, and Mom Penny was like, she speaks English. And like, started talking and all that stuff, and she was like talking to Papa Bear and all that stuff, and like they were talking to each other back and forth, and then like we were starting talking and like I'm telling her somebody's here to pick me up. And she's like, we're here to pick up a girl with a baby. And she didn't say how much month the baby was. She didn't say who the person was. She didn't say nothing. And I didn't say nothing either. So I kept looking at myself and started thinking, okay, she's here to pick up a girl with a baby. There's nobody else in here. So I was like, okay. And she kept asking me, I think you're the girl that you need to pick up with. I'm like, no. I'm like, no. I was like totally shy. And she was like, you're the girl that we need to pick up. No, So then I found out that they were the person that was going to pick me up. So amazing. English people get to be able to go up to the university. That's what I prayed it for. And I'm telling you, this is what happened to my life, and this is what God can do for you. And this is what He says to us that we need to ask and you shall receive, right? And that's one of the stuff that faith comes from believing and doing and action. So if you say this is what's gonna happen, and this is what you're praying for, and you're praying with all your heart, mind, and soul, that's what's gonna happen.
Yep.
And He's gonna answer.
This is supernatural life, and we're not trying to convince you of something that you gotta believe. We're just telling you what it is, because this is our life. God's been operating in our life for years since we was young. in many supernatural ways. I'm going to cut it short because this is already an hour. It's a long video. But these are just a couple testimonies of God being able to speak for you, provide for you if you would just believe and obey.